Hey guys, and welcome back. This is going to be my last attempt at trying to get the map completely correct before the election. We got about, I don't know, maybe about 10 days to go before the election, and it seems like Clinton has definitely gotten a bigger lead since the last map I made back after the first debate. But in recent days, with new stuff about the Clinton emails coming out, Trump does seem to be gaining a bit of the ground that he lost back, but still at this point CNN has it projected that Trump has a 15% chance to win to Clinton's 85, and the reason this is because out of all of the swing states, Trump pretty much needs to win all of them to have a chance, while Clinton just needs to pick up a few key ones here and there, and that'll pretty much push her over the top. So what I'm going to do in this video is first I'm going to go through and give Trump the states that I think are pretty safely in his pocket. And then after that, I'm going to go through and give Clinton the states that are safely in her pocket. And then with the battleground states left over, I'm pretty much just going to be using recent poll data, historical data, and just how I feel things are going to be playing out in those particular states. So I'm really not in... I really don't like either of these candidates, to be honest. But basically the goal of this video, I'm just trying to get my predictions as close to accurate as possible. So I don't really have any hidden agenda. I'm just trying to guess and get as close to what is actually going to happen, just as, you know, kind of just a fun little thing to do here. So starting with states that are pretty safe in Trump's pocket right now, we have Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and that gets Trump up to 87. Trying to see if there's any other states. Indiana has been getting closer, but with Pence, that's also going to be a pretty safe Trump one. And you know, you got Utah, and the reason things are really close in Utah is because of the third-party candidate that's going to siphon a lot of votes away from Trump. And that actually could, in the end, get Clinton, Utah, which would be a huge surprise. But I'm still going to put this one fairly safe in Trump's column. And then that pretty much does it for the states that are... I guess I can also go South Carolina, even though South Carolina is going to be slightly closer than what we've seen in recent elections. This is another state that I feel is also going to be pretty safe in Trump's pocket. Oh, and then I always forget about these two states out here, so then you also have Alaska. So after giving Trump all the states that he should pretty much have in the bag, he gets up to 116 electoral votes. Scroll down so you can see that. Alright, now moving over to the safe Clinton states, you have Washington, Oregon, California, Maine, Vermont, New York. It's kind of hard to click some of these smaller landmass states in here, but Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and then you also have the District of Columbia. And then moving over, you know, there's a lot of these states that, you know, you could technically say might be toss-ups, but New Mexico seems pretty safe in Clinton's corner, as well as Wisconsin, Minnesota, and then obviously Illinois. And I'm going to also throw in Michigan in there. I mean, Michigan has just been a solid Democrat state. I mean, even going back to like when George Bush was president, you had Al Gore winning Michigan, and then 4 years after that you had John Kerry winning Michigan. So this is not an election where I see Michigan flipping. And that pretty much does it for the states that Clinton has locked down in the bag at this point. So that gets her up to 223 points. So these are the states we have left. You know, there's some of these states that you'd be surprised that are toss-ups, but based on recent polling, that's what they are. States like Texas, Arizona, Georgia. You know, at one point they were pretty solid Trump states, but now they've gone back more into the toss-up category. Alright, so going through the toss-up states, I guess I'll start out west and just kind of work my way back to the east. Nevada's going to be really close. The recent polling data is showing that Clinton has a slight advantage there. And also, Nevada has been trending Democrat in recent elections, and I think that Nevada is just going to barely hang on and stay with the Democrats in this one. Arizona is an interesting one. They have a Senate seat that is likely going to be going to John McCain, and obviously McCain and Trump aren't the best of friends there, so not a great connection there for the presidential candidate, but things have been getting closer in Arizona in recent weeks, but the trends are still leaning towards Trump winning the state, but things could get really close here, so look out for Arizona. Moving over to Colorado, this is a state that's been trending Democrat, and I expect it to stay that way in this election. Texas is also another really interesting state to watch out for in this election. You had the Dallas newspaper endorsing their first Democratic candidate since, I can't even remember the last time, but that was kind of a big deal. And then also, you have a lot of traditional Republicans in the state of Texas, and then you have guys like, you know, the Bushes who aren't supporting Trump, which is hurting him in the state. But in the end, I do think that Texas will stay Republican. It would be pretty shocking if Texas were to flip over. You know, in all honesty, if the Democrats had a more popular candidate, it's actually possible that Texas might have been able to flip over if we had someone like Sanders or maybe Elizabeth Warren heading the ticket. But with Clinton being obviously not a very popular Democratic candidate, I do think that Texas is going to be staying. Oh, and I just realized in the safe Democrat states, I always forget the two outlier states here, but Hawaii is also going to be a safe Clinton state. Moving up to Iowa, this is a state that has been trending Democrat in presidential elections in recent presidential campaigns. But from all the polling data that we've seen, Iowa has generally been a pretty safe Trump state, even though the polling results have been really close. If Iowa doesn't go to Trump, then this is going to be a really tough election for him. But I do think that Iowa is just going to barely hang on and go to Donald Trump. And Trump will be really helped by the demographics in the state of Iowa. It's a very Caucasian-heavy state, which should help his numbers there. Moving down to Missouri, Missouri is a really interesting state. They're likely to have a Democratic governor again get elected, and this is also a Senate seat that the Democrats are looking like they might be able to pick up here, beating an incumbent Republican. So that would put 2 Democratic senators from Missouri, but even with a Democratic governor and possibly 2 Democratic senators from the state, this is a state that has been consistently Republican, even in recent elections where Barack Obama did really well, but he wasn't able to get Missouri in this past election. So, and from what all the polling data is showing, Missouri does seem like it is leaning towards Trump, so we're going to be siding with that, especially given the historical trends for the state of Missouri in presidential elections. New Hampshire is going to be a key state if Trump's going to get the upset win here, but I think that there's going to be a Bernie Sanders effect here up in the Northeast. Bernie Sanders has a lot of sway in the state of New Hampshire, given he's extremely popular in the neighboring state, Vermont, and with the campaigning he's done, I do think that that's going to make a difference as New Hampshire goes over to Hillary Clinton. All right, moving down to Georgia. So this is a state that Clinton is in contention for, even though Georgia generally and historically has been Republican. What's really giving Clinton a boost here is definitely the African American communities that are throughout the state of Georgia, and also Trump's message just hasn't seemed to be quite resonating with the Georgia people as much as it is in some of these other southern states. But with that said, the polling data is still slightly favoring Trump, and that's what we're going to side with in this one. Virginia, you know, a lot of people will say it's a safe Democrat state, but it seems like even when people say that, it's always a close election. What really gives the nod to the Democrats, I think, in this one is the vice presidential candidate being the representative from Virginia. And even though I do think Virginia will be a bit closer than people might expect, I do think it will side with the Democrats. So that just gives us 4 states here, and we have 259 to Clinton and 197 to Trump, and this is really where things get tough. Pennsylvania, a lot of the polling data is showing Clinton fairly significantly ahead, but Trump has been able to close the gap somewhat. It's just going to really depend for Clinton on Philadelphia and the areas around there really turning out to vote, and that's where the major population is in this state. Pennsylvania is rather consistently a Democrat state in presidential elections, and I do think that that trend will hold here. And that just pushes Clinton over the edge, but we'll finish up here with these final three states. These are definitely the three toughest states to figure out. Obviously, Ohio and Florida are always key in elections, in presidential elections specifically. And then North Carolina is one of those traditional Republican states that has been kind of going more in the Democratic route in recent years, but also showing the ability to flip back to Republican. So really tight battleground state there. So I'll start with North Carolina here. It looks like North Carolina is going to be flipping over to a Democratic governor, and also North Carolina is looking like they might be able to flip a incumbent Republican seat and go over to the Democrats. And I think that especially the voting momentum behind voting to unseat the current Republican governor there, I think that's going to help Clinton's cause, and that's going to push her just barely over the top in this state. Now, Ohio, originally Trump was doing very well there, but in more recent polls, it seems like things have been trending more in Clinton's direction. With that said, Trump is starting to gain some momentum again as we get closer to the election. And even though I think it's going to be insanely close, I do think that Trump is going to slightly be able to win Ohio. And then finally, Florida. So Florida is looking like they're going to keep their Republican Senate seat with Marco Rubio. He has been rather consistently pulling ahead of his the person he's been running against, and you know, getting a turnout for a Senate Republican candidate will help Donald Trump, even though Trump and Rubio obviously aren't the best of friends. That should help Trump's case here, but Florida is another state that has been trending Democrat and going to Barack Obama in the last two elections, and it does seem like the recent polling data is trending in Clinton's direction, and we think that that's going to be the difference here as Florida ends up going to Hillary Clinton. So this is how I see the final election map coming out here in about, let's see, the election's about 10 days from now. So the final score here is going to be 323 to Clinton and 215 to Trump. I don't really have too many surprises here on this map in terms of what people think in terms of the data that we've been seeing. Some states that I'm not extremely confident would be Ohio. I think that could be going to Clinton. And then Texas is another one. I'd be really surprised if it went to Clinton, but that's something to keep your eyes out for. And then obviously just some of the other really close states like Florida, North Carolina. I'm not entirely sure about those. So going to be keeping my eyes out on this, and I'm really excited for the election and to see how things happen. This has been a really interesting election season, and you know, we're probably never going to have an election like this in the future with, you know, just how interesting this whole process has been, both on the Democrat and Republican side, but really especially on the Republican side, having more of a celebrity figure take the reins of the party away from the more traditional candidates. So, you know, there's a lot of people that are fed up with Washington and, you know, the Washington elites, and that might have an effect on someone like Clinton, who's about as establishment as it gets. Perhaps the polling isn't right, but, you know, generally speaking, the polling tends to be pretty accurate. But, you know, for instance, back during the primaries, I remember Clinton was polling ahead of Bernie Sanders consistently by like over 20%, and she ended up losing that state. So, you know, you just take an example like that, and you can really, it really just shows you that anything can happen come election day, no matter how much a candidate is ahead. So if you're a really strong Trump supporter, even though the statistical data that we have to work with is strongly working against you right now, that doesn't mean you should feel defeated, and you definitely should still go out and vote, because really anything can happen. Right now Trump's just at 15% to Clinton's 85%, and this is a trend where, you know, Clinton was more in about the 60 to 70 range, but after the second and third debate, that really boosted Clinton's numbers. With this email stuff, though, that probably will shrink this number maybe back down to about 80% to maybe 75%, somewhere in that range. But as of right now, it is looking like Hillary Clinton is pretty strongly the odds-on favorite right now. So you can tell me what you think in the comment section, and how you think maybe the electoral numbers are going to shake out, or what states you think I might have got wrong. And then we'll just see how things shake out come election day and see how accurate that this map was. So thanks guys for watching, and subscribe for more political content in the future. Bye.